On July 24, 1984, Alan Lafferty returned home from work to find his 24-year-old wife, Brenda, and their toddler daughter, Erica, with their throats slashed. The family's apartment in American Fork, Utah, was in disarray. Brenda's body was in the kitchen with a vacuum cord wrapped around her neck, while her 15-month-old daughter was found lifeless in her blood-soaked crib. "I went over to Brenda, and I prayed," Alan tearfully testified in court. Two of Alan's 5 brothers, Ron and Dan Lafferty, fled the state after the slayings, but they were arrested weeks later in Reno, Nevada. They did not deny killing Brenda and Erica. Instead, Ron claimed he had received a revelation from God to remove his sister-in-law and niece, who had become obstacles in his path. Unhappy with a strong-willed sister-in-law, brought up as devout members of the Church of Latter-day Saints, or Latter-day Saints, and trained by their father to distrust the government and modern medicine, the Lafferty brothers were becoming increasingly zealous in the year preceding the murders. According to Under the Banner of Heaven, an investigative book about the case by author John Krakauer, Dan stopped paying taxes and almost lost their father's home to the government. As their patriarch's diabetes turned deadly, they refused to accept conventional medical treatment for him, and they increasingly touted the merits of polygamy. Dan took a second wife, and Ron alarmed his wife Diana when he announced his intention to marry off their teenage daughters as plural wives. It was one of the catalysts to her divorcing Ron and taking their 6 children to Florida. After both Dan and Ron were excommunicated from the Latter-day Saints Church in 1983, they became immersed in a fundamentalist fringe group called the School of Prophets, which taught that the primary Latter-day Saints Church had violated the religion's founding tenets by banning plural marriage and by allowing black converts. Dan, in particular, worked to bring his 5 brothers into the breakaway sect and encouraged Ron to quit his job and devote himself to the group. Ron became increasingly convinced he had a higher calling to be a prophet. In the spring of 1984, he claimed to have received approximately 20 revelations directly from God. According Brenda, who had been married to Alan for 2 years, enraged Ron and Dan for multiple reasons. College-educated, progressive, and assertive, she defied their view that women should be subservient and submissive to their husbands. Ron, deeply bitter, after his wife and children left, blamed Brenda for encouraging the split, and neither brother was happy that she was barring Alan, the youngest of the 6 Lafferty brothers,